The quantum anomaly flickered on the holographic display like a whisper of impossible mathematics. Dr. Emily Rodriguez leaned closer, her fingers tracing the delicate lines of data streaming across the screen. Outside the reinforced windows of the Interstellar Threat Assessment Center, the Nevada desert stretched into an endless canvas of brown and amber, a stark contrast to the complex digital universe unfolding before her. "Johnson, come look at this," she called, her voice steady despite the electric tension building in her chest. Mark Johnson, her lead research assistant, approached with a steaming cup of coffee. His weathered hands, marked by years of technical work, hovered over the display. "What are we looking at?" Emily pointed to a series of fractalized signal patterns that seemed to dance between coherence and chaos. "It's not just a communication signature, it's adaptive. Watch how the signal restructures itself." Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, isolating and magnifying different segments of the alien transmission. Across the room, a team of mathematicians, linguists, and quantum physicists worked in a choreographed silence. This was no ordinary research facility. Established in the deepest levels of government secrecy, the center had been preparing for this moment for decades, the potential first meaningful contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. The quantum anomaly represented something far more significant than a simple communication signal. It was a key, a potentially dangerous one. Meanwhile, 238,900 miles above the Earth, the Zalaxian diplomatic vessel maintained its calculated approach. Ambassador Krultak reviewed the preliminary scans of the human planet with a mixture of academic detachment and barely concealed superiority. The holographic representations of Earth showed a planet in apparent chaos, multiple competing governmental systems, technological disparities that seemed almost deliberately designed to prevent unified action, and a history of near-constant conflict. Preliminary assessment, Krultak dictated to the ship's AI system, shows a species characterized by internal fragmentation. Technological capabilities are inconsistent, with primitive energy production methods existing alongside nascent quantum computing research. Social structures appear fundamentally unstable. What Krultak didn't recognize was the complexity hidden beneath the surface. Humanity's apparent chaos was actually a sophisticated adaptive system, far more complex than any standardized galactic classification could comprehend. Back in the Nevada facility, Dr. Rodriguez was making connections that would soon change everything. The alien signal wasn't just a communication method. It was a probe, a sophisticated attempt to understand human communication systems by simultaneously analyzing and infiltrating them. "It's learning," Mark muttered, a note of both fascination and concern in his voice. Emily nodded. "And it doesn't realize we're learning right back." The facility hummed with a carefully controlled energy. Dozens of the world's most brilliant minds worked in synchronized effort, their skills honed by years of classified research and preparation. They weren't just scientists and researchers. They were humanity's first line of defense against an unknown threat. A secure communication line buzzed. Major Jack Harper's voice cut through the technical chatter. "Rodriguez, what are we looking at?" She took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "First contact protocols are active. The alien vessel is using a quantum communication method that's attempting to map our communication networks. But they're making a critical mistake." "Which is?" Harper's voice carried the sharp edge of a military mind trained to identify vulnerabilities. "They assume we're predictable," Emily responded, a slight smile crossing her lips. "They have no idea how wrong they are." The quantum anomaly continued its complex dance across the screens. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like random noise, but to Dr. Rodriguez and her team, it was a battlefield, a first encounter where the weapons were information, adaptation, and the uniquely human capacity to turn uncertainty into opportunity. Outside, the desert remained unchanged. The sun continued its relentless march across the sky, indifferent to the momentous potential of what was unfolding in the hidden research facility. Humanity's first true test of interstellar significance was about to begin, and most of the world had no idea. The Zylaxian analysis centers thrummed with algorithmic precision. Rows of crystalline processing units filtered through petabytes of data collected from the human planet, each calculation designed to categorize and predict the most likely developmental trajectories of this seemingly chaotic species. Lead classifier Karen reviewed the latest computational models with a sense of bureaucratic satisfaction. The holographic displays shifted and merged, presenting a multidimensional view of human civilization that looked, to Zylaxian eyes, like an impossibly complex, but ultimately flawed system. Observe the technological inconsistencies, Karen explained to a junior classification analyst. The hologram zoomed in on various regions of Earth, highlighting stark contrasts. In one frame, massive server farms hummed with quantum computing potential. In another, rural communities relied on decades-old infrastructure. A species this fractured cannot possibly mount a unified response to any significant challenge. Halfway across the galaxy, in a secure underground facility beneath the Colorado Rocky Mountains, Major Jack Harper saw the situation entirely differently. Rodriguez, he called through a secure quantum communication link. I want a full breakdown of the alien classification methods. Dr. Emily Rodriguez's fingers flew across her specialized interface. Lines of code and quantum analysis scrolled faster than any human eye could typically track. They're using a standardized galactic classification system. It's fundamentally linear. They can't comprehend our adaptive complexity. Mark Johnson, reviewing parallel data streams, chuckled. Linear thinking. The one thing humans have never been good at. The facility was a testament to human unpredictability. Researchers from competing nations worked side by side, their previous geopolitical tensions set aside by the magnitude of the potential threat. Mathematicians sat next to military strategists. Quantum physicists collaborated with cultural anthropologists. Each brought a unique perspective to the singular goal of understanding the alien threat. Karen's analysis continued, blissfully unaware of the irony of its assessment. The Zylaxian classification system broke human civilization into neat, predictable categories. Economic potential, technological development, social stability, military capability. What they couldn't measure was human creativity. In a small laboratory in Tokyo, a research team was developing adaptive nanotechnologies that could potentially revolutionize medical treatment, space exploration, and military defense, all simultaneously. In a garage in Silicon Valley, a group of independent researchers was working on a communication protocol that could potentially bypass traditional quantum encryption methods. In Washington, D.C., a classified meeting brought together the most brilliant minds from various government agencies. The room was a microcosm of human potential, diversity of thought, background, and approach. They're looking at us like we're a machine, said Dr. Rebecca Chen, a leading expert in xenosociology. But we're not a machine. We're an ecosystem. Major Harper nodded. Our greatest strength is our ability to be unpredictable, to innovate under pressure, to turn our apparent weaknesses into unprecedented capabilities. Back in the Zylaxian Analysis Center, Karen completed the initial classification report. The recommendation was clear: minimal observation, potential future integration. The humans were classified as a developing species class 3, potentially interesting, but ultimately inconsequential. If Karen could have understood human concepts, it might have recognized the fundamental error in this assessment. Dr. Rodriguez reviewed the intercepted Zylaxian data packets, a slight smile playing across her lips. They think we're predictable, she muttered to Mark. They have no idea what's coming. The quantum anomaly continued its complex dance. To the Zylaxians, it was just another data stream. To the humans, it was a conversation, a first, tentative dialogue with an intelligence that didn't yet understand what it was truly dealing with. Outside the research facility, the Colorado mountains stood as silent witnesses, snow-capped peaks that had existed long before human civilization, that would likely exist long after. A reminder that true potential is often hidden, waiting to be discovered. Humanity was about to prove that potential in a way no galactic civilization could have predicted. The research station on Mars never stood a chance. Situated in the Valles Marineris region, the International Research Outpost represented humanity's most ambitious extraterrestrial project. 23 scientists from 8 different countries worked in a carefully balanced ecosystem of scientific collaboration, their habitat a testament to human ingenuity in the most unforgiving environment imaginable. When the Zalaxian vessel struck, it was more than just an attack. It was a calculated demonstration of technological superiority. Dr. Emily Rodriguez watched the initial reports stream in, her fingers moving with surgical precision across multiple holographic displays. The attack lasted precisely 17 minutes and 23 seconds, a duration that would become etched in human history. 17 people confirmed lost. Major Jack Harper's voice was a controlled fury when he entered the command center. 17 scientists who were literally pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Mark Johnson pulled up the initial damage assessment. The research station had been vaporized, reduced to less than molecular fragments. Any other species might have been paralyzed by such a devastating blow. Humans, however, saw something entirely different. An opportunity. In Beijing, Washington, D.C., Moscow, New Delhi, and dozens of other global command centers, something unprecedented began to happen. The typical geopolitical tensions that had defined human interaction for centuries suddenly became irrelevant. Dr. Rebecca Chen from the United Nations Extraterrestrial Response Committee coordinated a global communication network that bypassed traditional diplomatic channels. Within hours of the attack, a comprehensive data package was being assembled, not just a military response, but a multidimensional strategy that would redefine humanity's approach to first contact. "They think this is a show of strength," Dr. Chen muttered, reviewing the initial analysis. "They have no idea what they've just started." The Zalaxian vessel responsible for the attack continued its approach toward Earth, believing the destruction of the Mars station would demonstrate humanity's insignificance. Ambassador Krultak reviewed the mission reports with a sense of clinical detachment, confident in the superiority of Zalaxian technology. What Krultak didn't understand was the nature of human resilience. In the Nevada research facility, Dr. Rodriguez was doing something the Zalaxians could never have anticipated. She wasn't just analyzing the attack. She was using it as a comprehensive learning opportunity. Every fragment of data, every millisecond of the encounter, was being dissected, understood, and transformed into a potential defensive strategy. "They used a quantum disruption pulse," Mark Johnson observed, analyzing the technical details of the attack, "designed to completely destabilize electronic systems." Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "And in doing so, they've just provided us with a complete blueprint of their primary weapon system." The global response was unlike anything in human history. Research facilities that had previously competed now shared information in real time. Military strategists worked alongside quantum physicists. Cultural experts collaborated with communication specialists. The Mars station attack had done something the Zalaxians never intended. It had unified humanity in a way no previous global event ever had. Major Harper reviewed the preliminary strategic assessments. "We're not just going to defend," he told Dr. Rodriguez. "We're going to demonstrate that attacking humanity is the worst mistake any species can make." Aboard the Zalaxian vessel, the leadership remained blissfully unaware of the storm they had unleashed. Their attack was supposed to be a simple demonstration, a way to show the humans their technological inferiority. Instead, they had committed a fatal miscalculation. They had awakened a sleeping giant. The quantum communication networks that Dr. Rodriguez and her team had been developing now hummed with a coordinated energy. What looked like chaos to the Zalaxians was actually a highly sophisticated, adaptive response system that was learning and evolving with every passing moment. "They want to play a game of technological superiority," Major Harper said, a dangerous smile crossing his face. "We'll show them what human innovation really looks like." As the Zalaxian vessel continued its approach, humanity prepared. Not with fear, not with panic, but with a cold, calculated determination that would soon redefine the very concept of interstellar conflict. The provocation was complete. The response was just beginning. The first Zalaxian assault fleet approached Earth with a calculated confidence that bordered on arrogance. 12 massive vessels, each representing the pinnacle of galactic military technology, moved in a perfect geometric formation that had conquered hundreds of civilizations across multiple star systems. Major Jack Harper watched the incoming fleet through a quantum-enhanced holographic display that seemed to breathe with living information. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood beside him, her fingers dancing across a complex interface that looked more like an abstract work of art than a military system. "They're using a standard invasion pattern," Mark Johnson observed, pulling up historical data from previous Zalaxian conquests. "Textbook approach, predictable." Dr. Rodriguez smiled. Predictability was the last thing the Zalaxians should have assumed about humanity. The global defense network was nothing like any previous human military system. It wasn't a centralized command structure, but a living, adaptive organism. Quantum-entangled communication nodes fanned the globe, each one capable of independent decision-making, yet simultaneously part of a greater whole. Satellites, ground stations, underwater installations, and mobile units created a defense grid that could reconfigure itself faster than any traditional targeting system could track. "Incoming primary assault wave," the computer system announced. But this was no ordinary computer. It was a distributed intelligence that combined machine learning with human intuition, programmed by the most brilliant minds from multiple disciplines. The first wave of Zalaxian attack drones approached, their energy signatures cutting through the upper atmosphere like surgical blades. Traditional military doctrine would have suggested a concentrated counterattack. Humanity did something entirely different. The defense network didn't just respond. It adapted. Individual defense platforms began to communicate with each other, sharing tactical information at speeds that defied conventional understanding. A satellite over the Pacific would instantaneously transfer targeting data to a ground-based system in Kazakhstan. An underwater installation in the Atlantic would redirect energy signatures to create complex interference patterns. Major Harper watched as the first Zalaxian attack wave encountered something completely unexpected. Instead of a straightforward defensive line, they found themselves in a constantly shifting battlefield, where the very rules of engagement changed millisecond by millisecond. "They're trying to establish a standard invasion pattern," Dr. Rodriguez noted, her voice calm. "But we're not giving them a standard response." The Zalaxian military leadership had studied hundreds of planetary conquests. They understood linear warfare, hierarchical command structures, predictable defensive strategies. Humanity presented them with a nightmare of complexity. One Zalaxian attack drone attempted to target a major population center. Before it could complete its approach, it found itself redirected through a series of quantum disruption fields that completely destabilized its navigation systems. Another drone discovered its communication channels suddenly flooded with complex mathematical algorithms that essentially turned its own systems against it. "It's not about destroying their technology," Major Harper explained to a group of international observers. "It's about making their technology fundamentally useless." Dr. Rebecca Chen, watching from the United Nations Extraterrestrial Response Center, understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just a military response. It was a comprehensive demonstration of human adaptability. The Zalaxian fleet began to experience something they had never encountered in hundreds of planetary conquests: genuine uncertainty. Their standardized invasion protocols began to break down. Communication between ships became increasingly fragmented. Tactical algorithms that had successfully conquered entire civilizations now found themselves confronting a defense system that refused to follow any recognizable pattern. Mark Johnson tracked the incoming data with a sense of professional fascination. "They're trying to understand our response," he said, "but by the time they analyze one defensive strategy, we've already changed 3 times. As the first assault wave began to disintegrate, the true nature of human warfare became apparent. This wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about intelligent, adaptive response. Every Xylaxian attack was immediately studied, understood, and transformed into a potential defensive or offensive opportunity. Major Harper looked at Dr. Rodriguez. No words were necessary. They both understood what the first assault wave was about to become a critical mistake in Xylaxian military history. The Xylaxian communication networks began to break down in ways no xenopsychologist could have predicted. It started with mathematics. Complex, beautiful, utterly incomprehensible mathematical proofs began flooding every possible communication channel. Quantum-encoded transmissions that seemed to dance between pure abstraction and fundamental universal truths. To human minds, they were elegant representations of scientific understanding. To the Xylaxian neural networks, they became something far more dangerous, a form of cognitive virus. Dr. Emily Rodriguez watched the psychological warfare unfold with a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. We're not just fighting with weapons, she explained to Major Jack Harper. We're fighting with information, with complexity. The first wave of psychological attacks was carefully designed. Historical documentaries about human survival, mathematical theorems that challenged fundamental Xylaxian understanding of physics, philosophical treatises that explored the nature of consciousness, adaptation, and survival. Each transmission was a carefully crafted weapon. In the Xylaxian command centers, something unprecedented began to happen. Military-grade artificial intelligence systems started to experience what could only be described as existential confusion. The carefully structured neural networks that had successfully managed hundreds of planetary conquests began to fragment. Mark Johnson tracked the psychological impact through a series of complex monitoring systems. "Look at this," he said, pulling up a holographic display that showed the increasing instability of Xylaxian communication networks. They're not just receiving information. They're being fundamentally challenged at a cognitive level. The human strategy was brilliantly simple and impossibly complex. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were teaching an entire alien civilization a fundamental lesson about the nature of intelligence, creativity, and survival. The psychological assault was just beginning. The research facility buried deep beneath the Colorado Rocky Mountains was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Here, the boundaries between scientific disciplines blurred into something entirely new, a crucible of human innovation that defied every conventional understanding of technological development. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that seemed to breathe with living information. Quantum computing systems intertwined with biological neural networks, creating something that was neither purely machine nor entirely organic. Around her, teams of researchers from disciplines that had once been considered incompatible now worked in perfect synchronization. "We're not just developing technology," she explained to Major Jack Harper. "We're creating adaptive intelligence." The Xylaxians had no concept of what was happening in this hidden facility. Their understanding of technological development was linear, predictable, constrained by millennia of standardized scientific approach. Humanity approached innovation like a living ecosystem, chaotic, unpredictable, capable of generating solutions faster than any standardized intelligence could predict. Mark Johnson brought up a series of holographic projections. Each one represented a different technological breakthrough that had been developed in the past weeks. Adaptive nanite systems that could simultaneously repair critical infrastructure, generate energy, and provide medical treatment. Quantum communication protocols that could bypass any known encryption method. Biomechanical interfaces that blended human intuition with computational precision. "They think they're fighting a technological war," Major Harper observed, studying the projections. "We're creating entirely new forms of intelligence." The most remarkable development was a distributed computing system that defied every known principle of artificial intelligence. Unlike traditional AI, this system didn't just process information, it evolved. Each interaction, each moment of conflict with the Xylaxian systems became an opportunity for learning and adaptation. Dr. Rebecca Chen from the United Nations Extraterrestrial Response Committee understood the deeper implications. It's not about creating a weapon, she explained in a classified briefing. It's about demonstrating the fundamental nature of human creativity. Quantum processors developed in the facility could analyze Xylaxian communication patterns and generate counter-strategies faster than the alien systems could implement their original plans. What would have taken traditional military intelligence months of analysis could now be accomplished in microseconds. One breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. A team of theoretical physicists worked alongside cultural anthropologists, creating a communication system that could simultaneously translate and adapt to multiple forms of intelligence. It wasn't just about understanding language. It was about comprehending the fundamental thought processes of an alien civilization. "Look at this," Mark Johnson said, pulling up a complex holographic representation. The display showed how human technological systems could reshape themselves in real time, creating solutions that didn't exist moments before. "We're not developing technology. We're creating living systems." The facility was a testament to human interdisciplinary thinking. Researchers who would have been competitors in previous decades now worked with a unified purpose. Quantum physicists sat alongside neural engineers. Mathematicians collaborated with cultural experts. Each breakthrough came from the intersection of seemingly unrelated disciplines. Major Harper reviewed the latest technological assessments. The human response to the Xylaxian invasion was evolving faster than any military strategy in recorded history. Each moment of conflict became an opportunity for innovation. Dr. Rodriguez demonstrated a particularly remarkable system, a quantum communication network that could predict and counter alien technological approaches before they were even implemented. "It's not about having the most advanced technology," she explained. "It's about being able to generate new solutions faster than any potential threat can adapt." The Xylaxian leadership had no concept of this level of technological innovation. Their understanding of scientific development was based on incremental improvements, carefully controlled research protocols, and standardized approaches to technological advancement. Humanity was rewriting the entire concept of technological development. One breakthrough followed another. Adaptive materials that could change their fundamental properties in milliseconds. Communication systems that existed in multiple potential states simultaneously. Computational approaches that blended human creativity with machine precision. "They never imagined," Major Harper said, watching the holographic displays, "that humans could be this dangerous." The technological war was about to enter a phase that no galactic civilization had ever encountered. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was demonstrating a fundamental truth about innovation, creativity, and survival. The unexpected capabilities were just beginning to reveal themselves. The approach to the Xylaxian homeworld was nothing like a traditional military invasion. Major Jack Harper led a strike team that defied every conventional understanding of interstellar conflict. Their vessel wasn't a weapon of destruction, but a living system of computational and biological integration. Dr. Emily Rodriguez monitored the mission from the Advanced Research Facility, her fingers dancing across interfaces that seemed to breathe with living information. "We're not going to destroy them," she explained to Mark Johnson. "We're going to fundamentally destabilize their entire civilization." The strike team consisted of 12 individuals, each one a specialist in ways that transcended traditional military or scientific categorizations. A quantum physicist who could rewrite communication protocols in milliseconds, a cultural expert who understood the deep psychological frameworks of alien civilizations, a biomechanical engineer capable of interfacing with alien technological systems in ways no traditional approach could comprehend. Their vessel moved through space with an almost organic fluidity, adapting its quantum signature faster than any tracking system could predict. Traditional stealth technology was primitive compared to the adaptive camouflage developed in the hidden human research facilities. As they approached the Xylaxian primary homeworld, the team's true objective became clear. This wasn't an invasion. It was a surgical intervention designed to completely dismantle the alien civilization's core systems. Major Harper reviewed the final mission parameters. "We're going to introduce a level of complexity they cannot possibly comprehend," he told the team. Each member understood the profound nature of their mission. They weren't just attacking a planetary system. They were challenging an entire civilization's understanding of intelligence, communication, and survival. The first point of entry was the Xylaxian Primary Communication Network. Instead of a traditional cyber attack, the human team introduced a series of computational algorithms that were part mathematics, part cultural expression, part pure creativity. These weren't simple viruses or traditional hacking tools. They were living information systems designed to fundamentally challenge the Xylaxian understanding of communication. Dr. Rebecca Chen had spent months developing the core communication intervention. It's not about destruction, she had explained during mission preparation. It's about introducing a level of complexity that their entire system cannot process. The first wave of intervention was almost beautiful in its complexity. Mathematical theorems that existed in multiple simultaneous states, communication protocols that could reshape themselves based on how they were observed, quantum-encoded messages that defied linear understanding. Xylaxian communication networks began to experience something unprecedented. Their standardized information processing systems encountered inputs that simply could not be categorized, processed, or understood. It was like introducing a form of intelligence that operated by completely different fundamental rules. Mark Johnson tracked the intervention's progress through a series of complex monitoring systems. "Look at this," he said to Dr. Rodriguez. "We're not just breaking their systems, we're fundamentally challenging their entire understanding of information and intelligence." The strike team moved with a precision that defied traditional military strategy. They weren't destroying infrastructure. They were introducing a form of systemic complexity that would slowly unravel the entire Xylaxian civilization. Communication centers began to experience cascading failures. Decision-making systems found themselves confronting information that existed in multiple contradictory states. The very foundations of Xylaxian technological and social infrastructure began to fragment. Major Harper watched the intervention unfold with a sense of clinical precision. "This is what happens," he muttered, "when a civilization assumes it understands the nature of intelligence." Each moment of the intervention introduced new layers of complexity. Cultural expressions that challenged fundamental philosophical understanding, mathematical proofs that existed in quantum superposition, communication systems that could reshape themselves faster than any traditional processing method could track. The Xylaxian leadership began to experience something they had never encountered in hundreds of planetary conquests: genuine, fundamental uncertainty. Dr. Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. "We're not just attacking their technology," she explained. "We're demonstrating a fundamental truth about intelligence, creativity, and survival." As the intervention continued, the true nature of human capability became apparent. This wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about introducing a level of complexity, creativity, and adaptive thinking that fundamentally challenged every known principle of technological and social development. The Xylaxian civilization was about to learn a profound lesson about the nature of intelligence. Humanity wasn't just defending itself, it was redefining the very concept of interstellar conflict. The silence was deafening. Ambassador Kreltak stared at the holographic displays that now showed nothing but cascading systems failures across the entire Xylaxian civilization. What had begun as a simple planetary assessment had transformed into the most comprehensive systemic collapse in galactic history. Dr. Emily Rodriguez watched the final reports come in from the strike team, her expression a mixture of professional detachment and profound understanding. "We didn't destroy them," she explained to Major Jack Harper. "We showed them the true nature of intelligence." The aftermath was unlike any previous interstellar conflict. The Xylaxian civilization hadn't been conquered in the traditional sense. It had been fundamentally transformed, its core systems dismantled by a level of complexity that defied their entire understanding of technological and social development. Mark Johnson compiled the final analysis reports. The intervention had been so precise, so fundamentally sophisticated, that the Xylaxian leadership was left in a state of complete cognitive dissonance. Their communication networks, their decision-making systems, their entire societal infrastructure, all had been systematically challenged at the most fundamental level. Dr. Rebecca Chen from the United Nations Extraterrestrial Response Committee understood the deeper implications. This isn't about military victory, she explained in a classified briefing. This is about demonstrating a fundamental truth about survival, adaptation, and intelligence. The galactic community watched in stunned silence. Hundreds of civilizations that had lived under the threat of Zalaxian expansion began to understand something profound. Humanity wasn't just another developing species. They were something entirely different. A civilization that could turn perceived weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. Major Harper reviewed the final mission reports. The strike team hadn't fired a single traditional weapon. They had introduced a form of systemic intervention that was part mathematics, part cultural expression, part pure creativity. Each communication protocol, each quantum-encoded message, had been a surgical strike against the very foundations of Zalaxian civilization. They never imagined humans could be this dangerous, he muttered. The technological breakthroughs developed during the conflict began to reshape human understanding of innovation. Adaptive communication systems that could reshape themselves in real time. Quantum computing approaches that blended human creativity with computational precision. Interdisciplinary research methods that broke down traditional barriers between scientific disciplines. Ambassador Krultak's final report to the Galactic Council became a document that would be studied for generations. It was a profound admission of complete misunderstanding, a recognition that humanity represented something entirely new in the galactic landscape. The human species, the report read, cannot be understood through traditional classification systems. They are not a civilization to be conquered, but a force to be understood and respected. Dr. Rodriguez understood the deeper truth. This wasn't about military superiority. It was about demonstrating the fundamental nature of human creativity, adaptability, and survival. The research facilities that had developed the intervention continued their work. Teams of scientists from disciplines that would have been considered incompatible decades ago now worked with a unified purpose. Quantum physicists sat alongside cultural anthropologists. Mathematicians collaborated with neural engineers. Mark Johnson pulled up a series of holographic projections showing the long-term impacts of the intervention. We didn't just change how they think about conflict, he said. We changed how they understand intelligence itself. The galactic community began to reassess humanity's place in the interstellar ecosystem. No longer were humans seen as a developing species to be monitored or potentially conquered. They were recognized as a fundamental force of adaptation and innovation. Major Harper reflected on the mission's true significance. We didn't defeat them, he explained to Dr. Rodriguez. We taught them a lesson about the nature of intelligence, creativity, and survival. The Zalaxian civilization was left in a state of profound transformation. Their standardized systems of communication, decision-making, and societal organization had been fundamentally challenged. They were forced to confront a level of complexity that defied their entire understanding of technological and social development. Dr. Chen summarized the intervention's true impact in a classified report. Humanity demonstrated that true intelligence is not about processing power, she wrote. It's about adaptability, creativity, and the ability to generate solutions that defy conventional understanding. As the galactic dust settled, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity was not just another species to be categorized or conquered. They were a force of nature, unpredictable, complex, capable of turning perceived weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. The universe would never be the same.